So the first question is, what are your favorite methods of personal development for CEOs and small to mid-sized businesses? Based on their position, they tend to be loners in their business. And so I'll leave that to either you, Bonnie, or Esme to jump in if you guys want to talk about that. Again, the question's about personal development for CEOs and small to mid-sized businesses.
Okay. Bonnie, you want to take a crack at it, or should I?
Sure. Well, I'm actually going to cheat here a little bit, and I'm looking in the Successful Executives Handbook, published by BDI. They have career and self-direction as one of the chapters here, and so I'm just going to share what they have to say is reflecting on the beliefs and values that drive your mission as a leader and articulating your personal mission statement, evaluating the alignment between your goals and your organizational goals, resolving conflicting goals, linking the goals with opportunities, and interestingly, reviewing your balance between work and home, knowing what energizes you both places, and also spending non-work time on fulfilling activities. So that would speak to the whole person and not just sitting isolated, alone, and lonely in a very high level of high responsibility. So Esme, what kind of thoughts or experiences might you have around that?
Yeah, well, I was thinking, reflecting on this, and I thought, well, how do I even begin to preface this? I had the displeasure of working for a CEO who needed a ton of development, and in a mid-sized business, actually. But what I found in working in that live experience, and then through other experiences, what I found is that, you know, it's very lonely at the top, as we all know, right? And so they're not really getting some good information about how they are coming across and how their ideas or how their commands are landing on the organization. So for this particular leader, of course, I wanted to have him work with a very experienced, seasoned executive coach. But it took me some time to help him get there, help him get to the point where he would be open to working with a coach. Because, you know, on the surface, he was like, yeah, absolutely. He knew that was the right thing to role model, but would he be personally open to the actual work? And it's tough work to work with a coach. So it took me, as well as some of the members of the leadership team, some time to help him get there. And that was, by us first being courageous enough to share some of our observations regarding how things were landing, making the observations more about the work than the individual, and then slowly working into like, okay, well, here's the impact that your that email or that, pick your social media, internal use of social media of choice, response had on that team. So again, it took us working up the courage to provide that CEO with input and feedback, or when things were going very well, being very honest in how those behaviors were landing on the rest of the organization. So yeah, for me, my favorite method of personal development is for a CEO is an external executive coach, but you need to make sure that they are ready to do the work, and you also have to go through the tough vetting process for the right type of coach who's going to have a good synergistic relationship with the CEO as well as the board, perhaps, or if it's a publicly traded company, with the board, or with members of the leadership team, whoever else is part of the engagement and of the process. Hope that's helpful.
Esme, that's a great example. It's Bonnie again. I'll jump in. Another really handy resource would be the book from Marshall Goldsmith entitled "What Got You Here Won't Get You There."
Mm-hmm.
And he mostly works with people in mid to upper levels, and basically found that most of the issues for them were interpersonal issues of one form or another, which either didn't matter that much in the early phases of their career, or that they were so talented they achieved high levels in spite of the issues, but then eventually it came back to bite them. And he summarizes it in some really clear ways that it's about informational sharing flaws, or emotion-related flaws. Just like not listening well is a really good example, that maybe it was overlooked earlier in the career, but it definitely started to derail him later. So that's a really good reference for folks in that dilemma.
Great. Thanks, Bonnie and Esme. The one other thing I would add is, leveraging sort of both sort of responses is a good 360 feedback instrument, and specifically one that has a set of competencies specific for that executive level, and one which also has an ability to benchmark. I think that lonely at the top thing, there is a small peer group, and to the extent that you can get that person benchmark data that shows them how they compare to that peer group, I think is a really good way to sort of pull back and not have them think that it's just their team, but to get some idea of how they stack up against other CEOs in relation to the same set of competencies and those kinds of things. So give them some real concrete data that will be useful, and that sort of takes a little bit of the brunt off the weight off the coach delivering the bad news. It's there in the 360, and you get it from typically different parts of the organization, not just the executive team, but other levels, and maybe even people that are on the board, and those kinds of things can weigh in there. And then I want to move on to the last question so we can really wrap up. And Bonnie, I think you've already talked about a couple of books for that leadership, but the other question is about books for teams.
Yeah, this is Esme. I have a couple of thoughts. So the books that I referenced, that I used actually for my presentation, there's two of them. One is The Wisdom of Teams by John Katzenbach and Douglas K. Smith. The Wisdom of Teams. That is, that is the Bible when it comes to teams, and they keep updating it. I mean, it was first published in the 90s. They keep updating it. Really good information, excellent research, very actionable as well. The other piece, the piece around engagement and making progress, that comes from research by Teresa Amabile, and the book is called The Progress Principle. While this is not about teams specifically, it does get into quite a bit of the impact on teams and team leadership, etc. Now, if we ever decide to go deeper from a webinar perspective, I would take us in the direction of using the team performance model by Drexler Sibbett, and I'll type this in the chat. So Drexler Sibbett, their team performance model is hands down one of the best performance models out there. It's it just takes you through a much more sophisticated view of team development, of how teams unfold and develop, because it goes deeper than the Tuckman model, right? The Tuckman model, everybody knows it. It's very linear, forming, storming, norming, performing. We're done, yay! And life doesn't work that way, right? So the Drexler-Sibbitt model instead starts with some very deep personal questions. Why am I here? Why am I part of this team? And then, the next step is, why are you here? And why are we why are we here? What are we doing together? And then it moves towards a cycle of performance, of commitment, and then performance. So Drexler-Sibbitt would be my recommendation. I have not come across any books by them, but you can certainly download quite a bit of information if you Google, or if you do a search on Drexler-Sibbitt. Quite a bit of information comes up, and if anybody's really interested in delving deeper, give me a call. Happy to walk you through the model and in ways in which you can use it. I can share all the different ways I've used this model with teams.
Thank you very much. Bonnie, Esme, far exceeded my expectations of what you guys would deliver. I really appreciate your commitment to Kraft Foods Alumni Network, as well as CPG professional networks. It's been really great. So I want to just thank you very much for your time and attention and dedication and all the work you put in to deliver such a great webinar. We do have handouts. If you would just email me and I will send you the handouts, and we can make sure that you get all the things that were listed here. And if you have questions directly for Esme or Bonnie, their information is on I believe it's on the handouts, but also on our CPG Professional Networks website. You can find them both. Thank you very much, and for sticking around a little bit longer than anticipated. It's been a great time. Thank you all very much for today.
Thank you, Perry. It's a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Bonnie. Bye-bye, everyone.